Imagine this. It's bright and early in the morning, and you're waiting for the scheduled train so you can get to school. Your hormones are running rampant as you scan through the new catalog of your favorite models. As you flip through the pages, an old woman approaches you asking about directions to another station. Obviously preoccupied, you give her the wrong response on purpose, doing anything to get out of this confrontation. The woman pursues you again, and filled with teenage angst, you snap back at her, aggravated by the incompetence and mindlessness of this world. The working class is so deep into their everyday lives they fail to think about anything past the next meeting, and you'd be lucky if the younger generation uses their brains at all, only indulging in the new makeup brands and clothing stores. People go on with their lives without any meaningful purpose, and before they know it, they'll be 6 feet under. By coincidence, an old childhood friend finds himself catching the same train as you. Does he remember you? You guys used to be pretty close after all. These nostalgic thoughts frolic in your head before being overshadowed by doubt and ego, almost certain he's fallen in line with the rest of this thoughtless society. As your mind continues to slander your old friend, a drunk finds himself toppling onto the track. A crowd gathers as people loom over the old man, pushing the responsibility onto the absent train attendants. The idea of witnessing a gruesome death excites you, the kind of demise you only ever see on TV. You look over to your left to see Kato, your childhood friend, literally shaking in his shoes, his eyes clenched shut. The sight of his cowardice bringing back old memories of when you were kids. Even years later, he's still the same old wuss. Dripping with sweat and trembling uncontrollably, you hear him mumble, "I'll do it," under his shaking breath, dropping his school bag and lowering himself down onto the tracks, running over to the drunken victim, picking up the nearly unconscious man and looking to the crowd for help. Despite his pleading, it falls on deaf ears. His eyes scan through the crowd before arriving at yours, a relieved smile across his face as he yells out to you. Within no time at all, you find yourself jumping down onto the tracks. Despite your inner thoughts screaming to run, your body seems to act on its own. Squatting down, Kato positions the man onto your back. Mustering up all the strength, you lift him back onto the platform, adrenaline rushing through your veins at the thought of certain death. With the train shortly arriving at the station, and unable to pull himself up, Kato yells to run. If you get far enough, you'll be able to survive. The train is stopping at the station after all. But unfortunately, your hope doesn't prevail for long. A man on the platform shouts down to the two of you, informing you about the express train. Now, with no reason for the train to stop, the two of you find yourselves panicking, looking for any possible way out. The train barrels towards you, smashing into the backs of both of you and scattering pieces of you across the station. As your head flies through the air, one thought crosses your fleeting consciousness. What an idiot Kato is. And even though death itself takes hold of you, you feel relieved that you can finally put this pitiful existence to rest. Or so you thought. The world of Gantz is a cruel one, filled with casual brutality, unnerving psychotic characters, and a persistent sense of existential dread and hopelessness. These factors are amplified to the highest degree, presenting themselves as almost comical, while still maintaining this real, raw feeling to it. Which is odd, given that it's about a horny teenager fighting demonic aliens in the middle of Tokyo, dressed in spandex. But despite all odds, it works. The gore, the nudity, and the human emotions displayed in this manga are truly something special, all of which radiate around the central theme of human connections and the significance of our lives in this endless universe. Granted, it probably doesn't hit the same level for everyone, but for me, this was truly an experience like no other. And through all the absurdity and over-the-top fan service lies our two protagonists, Masaru Kato and Kei Kurono. Initially, these two characters are complete opposites. Kurono views the world as a pessimist, seeing people lose their hopes and dreams to conform to the thoughtless society devoid of any real meaning or purpose. Kato, on the other hand, stays on the more optimistic side, choosing to see the value in all life, even those who are not human, and deciding to help others despite the risks. Kato isn't a very complex character, and he isn't one that undergoes a lot of change throughout the series either. He stays relatively unchanged in his ideals throughout the course of the story, but this by no means makes him a boring character. His simple ideology goes on to shape the entire identity of the series, and it helped make Gantz into the series it is today. If it wasn't obvious yet, I'll be talking about Kato in this video, and how his ideals stand out within the world of Gantz. Kato and Kurono grew up together. They were close friends, best friends even, but back then the dynamic was different. Kurono was the hero. He would stick up to people far larger than him. The scarier the encounter, the more excited he got. I guess you could attribute that to the naive nature of children, but regardless, he was fearless. And Kato looked up to that, being more skittish in nature himself. Kurono's fearlessness inspired him as a child. Later down the line, Kato found himself placed in a delinquent school, surrounded by troublemakers and criminals. But despite these influences, he strived to be kind. He wanted to help people. He wanted to do the right thing. He wanted to be like Kurono, standing up against the evil in the world regardless of how the odds were stacked up against him. But Kato isn't gifted with this blissful ignorance that Kurono has. And during that train accident, he was so fearful he quaked. Just merely thinking about the idea of jumping down there had physically affected him. Throughout the series, there are a couple instances of Kato, as well as other characters being genuinely afraid, but it isn't the same feeling as this initial scene. In those other instances, it's usually Kato and the others going up against immeasurable odds because of some super powerful alien, which is justifiable, but here it's not some crazy fictional situation. Someone had fallen onto the tracks, and Kato stands there for a while debating if he should really act. It's such a powerful moment and introduction to his character, showing him overcome his own feeling of fear to save a stranger. And I think that this person being a narcissistic drunk who doesn't care about anybody, himself included, adds to Kato's character. More than not, the person to push the hero past their boundaries is a child or a relative or someone they care about. But the fact that this person, in relation to the themes of Gantz, is a person that amounts to nothing, is a really cool and purposeful way of showing that Kato sees everyone as worthy of being saved, and in turn, worthy of living. Usually in these manga, the main character is some blissful idiot who decides to get real whenever a battle goes down. There's no inner conflict about how they're scared. They are fully confident in their abilities, and while that's fine to do, it's refreshing to see a character struggle with the idea of his own morality in real time. Moving along, it is revealed that the two, along with many others, were revived for a specific reason, to participate in what only could be described as a real-life video game. Equipped with blasters, supersuits, and a tracking system, they'd be tasked to hunt down the alien targets to earn points needed to buy back their freedom. But this time, if they died, it would be permanent. During these trials, Kato would put his life on the line again and again, not only for Kurono, but for others who have suffered the same fate. In the first mission, the newly recruited Gantz fighters find themselves teleported to a peaceful suburb in Tokyo. Nishi, an experienced Gantz fighter, reveals that it is in fact a game show made in collaboration with the United States. His dad is a producer, and their goal is to hunt down aliens that have been secretly hiding on Earth. Winning the game nets them a sum of 10 million yen. Nishi hands them a tracker to locate their target, leading them to the doorstep of a small apartment. Kurono and Kato decide to leave alongside Kishimoto and head off in a different direction, although they're quickly pulled back into it when the alien lands right at their feet. Kato tries to comfort him as the pool of slime and snot forms from his bloodied face. Before Kato has a chance to help, the alien darts off as the rest of the team come running around the corner in hot pursuit, guns in hand. Kato runs after them in an attempt to stop them, but it's already too late. As he closes the distance, the alien is seen imploding from the delayed shots of the X-guns. Kato pleads for an ambulance before a Yakuza takes the final shot, ending the alien's life. Tears stream down Kato's face as he vomits into his hand, unsure if he should be sad, disgusted, or both. Kato feels responsible for the boy's death as he shouts about not being able to save him. The rest of the group remains unsympathetic, still believing it's just a game and dismissing their actions over the fact that it wasn't human. Another figure appears behind the group. Like Kato, tears stream down its face as it screams at the men. The man in the Yakuza tries to take on the alien with a headbutt, but he's the only one that ends up getting hurt. The rest of the team draw their guns, pointing at the towering figure. The alien takes hold of the man's face, his talons digging into his skin. The severity of the situation becomes apparent to the man as he begs for forgiveness, the alien holding the dismembered arm of his child as a way to show what he's truly done, further squeezing the man's head as blood continues to drip down his face. One of the Gantz members takes a shot at the alien, but the alien acts with swiftness, putting the Yakuza member's body in between him and the gun, resulting in him getting blown into two pieces. His rage comes to a boiling point as he's forced to come to the harsh reality of the situation, something that certainly cannot be forgiven. squishing the man's head in between his fingers and then going on to massacre the rest of the Gantz team. After quickly dispensing them, his attention turns towards the innocent Kato, rushing towards him and only getting stopped by a vengeful magazine of lead from the surviving Yakuza member, unloading a clip into the alien before dying himself. A traumatized Kato stands alone, surrounded by his dismembered teammates, before a cruel twist ensues. The creature comes back to his feet and approaches him. This, in fact, was not a game show, and instead, seemingly hell on earth. Kato tries to empathize with the alien, explaining that he doesn't want to kill either, and that he actually tried to save his friend, but unfortunately, the creature can't understand him. Realizing that nothing he says will get through, Kato wonders what he should do. Not wanting to die, he considers using his weapon, as it appears to be different from the others. Kato raises his gun, trying to stay calm during the situation while weighing his options. The alien attacks, with Kato narrowly avoiding it and raising the gun to its head. The alien yields as Kato gains the upper hand. Holding his weapon still, he yells out in a desperate attempt for answers. "Will you survive if I shoot you? Will you live if I pull this trigger? What will happen? And can I go back if I do it?" The thought of taking a life is too much, and Kato lowers his weapon, refusing to kill the alien. But his pity means nothing as the creature attacks again, sending Kato tumbling down the hill behind him. I really like this entire sequence with Kato. The theme of morality of these games is shown a couple times throughout the series, most of which are usually when Kato is around. The moments usually go along the lines of them questioning what the true purpose of killing these aliens is, and Kato wondering if there is a more peaceful approach. This theme fits into the larger themes of war and the gray areas that come along with it. I look at Kato as kind of a foot soldier, tasked with killing these so-called enemies, even though he has no say in it and no idea why he's even doing it, leading him to rebel all he can, trying his best to take the path with the least amount of blood, going as far as almost getting himself killed to spare the target. A vast majority of the people within Gantz look at the aliens as nothing more than stepping stones on their path to freedom, not thinking twice about killing them. There's also people who see them more like animals, hunting them for sport, or even going as far to use them for, desires, let's say. I don't really want to go into all that during this video, but what I'm trying to say is that almost everyone in Gantz see these aliens as beneath them, while Kato sees they have just as much right to live as we do, and doesn't want to harm them any more than he has to. Tying back into the beginning of the manga with Kato saving the drunk homeless man. The homeless man obviously represents someone who is seen as less valuable to society from the perspective of the people around him, a useless drunk, one who's not worth losing a contributing member of society for. Kato jumping down onto those tracks to save him stands for more than him just saving a person. He's saving a person that, in the eyes of the people around him, is seen as being less valuable. This then ties in how Kato sees the aliens later on, being that Kato doesn't see these aliens as any less human as us, and therefore puts his life on the line to save them as well. Jumping back to Kurono's perspective, after uncovering the gruesome scene, Kurono finds himself running from the alien. With super strength, super speed, durability, and equipped with large blades for fingernails, the creature relentlessly chases after him, a moving car not even capable of taking the creature down. In a desperate attempt to escape, Kurono leaps from the top of the large set of stairs, momentarily flying as Kato stands in awe from the sidelines. Although Kurono put his all into getting away, it wasn't enough. The creature effortlessly glides down the stairs, coming face to face with him. Stricken with fear as he finds himself paralyzed at the bottom of the stairs, as the alien draws his blades, Kato runs to his aid, ill-equipped for the job and fully aware of the alien's powers. He puts the alien in a fragile chokehold as he begs Kurono to run, throwing his own life on the line and suffering great injuries, only just managing to escape death by getting transported to the Gantz room on completion of the mission. Despite Kato's efforts, he contributed nothing to the creature's defeat. Nishi had saved Kato and Kurono by trapping the creature, offering Kurono the chance to claim the points, but ultimately taking them for himself. Nishi has been fighting in these missions for a while, and is now on the verge of securing his own freedom, but his methods of surviving are cowardly, opting to sacrifice others to carve out an easier path for himself. Withholding information from new fighters, allowing them to struggle through the mission, he uses his suit's technology to hide, waiting for the perfect time to strike. letting people whittle down his opponent before claiming the kill for his own. Although he has all this experience, these death games are usually anything but predictable. The following mission, Nishi's caught in a slip-up, getting seriously injured at the hands of a powerful alien. His neglect to help the others have left him without aid. He cries out to the people on the bridge, but everyone unanimously agrees that they should just let him die. Despite this, Kato jumps into the murky water below in an attempt to save Nishi, putting aside Nishi's borderline psychotic behavior for the greater good of the people around him. His goal is not only saving him, but hoping to get the information that he's so reluctant to give out in return, thus having a chance to save others as well. Approaching Nishi and the enemy, Nishi incoherently mumbles through the mouthful of blood and missing teeth for Kato to kill the alien so they can all return to the room, healing all of his wounds in the process. Shocked at the ultimatum, Kato wonders if this is the only solution. Is taking a life of another really the only way? Or is there another way to get out of this without bloodying his hands? And now, Kato's life isn't the only one on the line. As the alien sinks beneath the surface, Kato uses the gun to shoot through the water, clearing him a path and letting him reach Nishi. As they make their way back to the riverbank, the alien attacks once more, sending Nishi flying onto the walkway and leaving Kato in a one-on-one with the alien. Closing the gap with the alien and wrapping his arms around his metallic body, Kato uses his amplified strength to crush the robotic suit, causing the creature inside to burst out. Kurono uses the Y-gun to restrain the creature and send him to an unknown location like Nishi had done before, leaving him seemingly unharmed. Assuming the mission is finally over, Kato goes to check on Nishi, only to find out there are more aliens they need to take out before being able to return to the room. With Nishi on the brink of death, and not enough time to save him, Kato questions Nishi about their freedom. Either ignoring Kato completely, or simply unable to hear him, he calls for his mother, letting information slip about the 100-point system used to reclaim their freedom, mumbling about his precious 90 points before finally submitting to his injuries. Kato spends the rest of the mission trying to capture as many aliens as he can in an attempt to complete the mission, as well as get enough points to buy back their freedom. From this point on, Kato decides to primarily use the non-lethal alternative during these missions, choosing to secure these creatures and send them on their way instead of outright killing them. And while I couldn't find a definite answer as to how this affects the point system, what I do know is that regardless of that, Kato is putting himself at a disadvantage. I strongly consider this to be amongst the worst weapons in the series. It doesn't deal with immediate threats, it isn't able to successfully transport large targets, and the wind-up for transport is simply too long. Kato is putting himself in some serious risk by using this weapon, but despite that, he still chooses to use it over the more direct alternative. And while these first two arcs showcase Kato's kindness and the lengths he goes for others, I think the greatest demonstration of Kato's character shows itself in the following arc, the Buddhist Temple mission. This is possibly the most pivotal moment in the entire series, and may very well be my favorite arc in the entire manga. If anything I've talked about has piqued your interest, I highly recommend reading Gantz for yourself. Until this point, I've only covered about 60 chapters of the nearly 400 chapter long manga. This manga truly is something special, and the feeling of shock and awe can only be truly felt when reading it firsthand. Pause the video, take a quick binge read, and I'm sure a new Gantz video will be waiting for you when you return. This arc starts off by gathering the remaining 6 players from the last mission, being Kato, Kurono, Kishimoto, Hojo, Sareo, and the dog, as well as adding 9 new players in preparation for the next mission, bringing the total player count up to 15. Making this the most players in a single mission up until this point. In terms of Kato's development though, the specifics of these new characters don't really matter, so I won't be going over all their names, besides Sei, who has some relevance with Kurono, let's say. Now with Kishi's abrupt death from the last mission, this leaves Kato, Kurono, and Kishimoto with the most experience on the team. Kato, aware of this predicament, immediately steps up to the leader position, informing them that they aren't all dead, and in fact they're very much alive, but if they don't work together, they'll be dead before they know it. To prove this, he begins to tell the group what will happen next. He says how the Black Sphere will begin to play music soon, and will task them with hunting down and killing an alien. Guns will be provided to them, as well as personalized suits for everyone. One of the new players happens to be a religious figure, one who's actually kind of interesting in terms of the views and how it correlates with the mission and the story, but maybe I'll talk about that another time. This character initially convinces the new players that this is some sort of testing ground before they go to paradise, given the fact that they've all just died. He gets all of them to parade around the sphere and dismiss everything that Kato's saying. In an attempt to get them to listen, Kato picks 2 of them up, suspending them in midair. The 2 then kick him directly in the face, but he remains unharmed. Kato demonstrates the power of this suit, and ultimately this leads to some of them wearing it. The newly formed group of fighters find themselves teleported to, you guessed it, a Buddhist temple. The team is then pitted against a multitude of different living statues in a destructive battle. When a civilian wanders into the mission ground, unable to see what's really happening due to the rules of the game, but perplexed by the amount of unexplainable damage on the sacred area, he's almost squashed to death by the large statue. Kato reacts quickly, running to save the man as he calls for help. Gathering 3 others, they suspend the foot in midair, giving the man time to walk away unharmed. And this is what I believe to be Kato's best characteristic, being his ability to inspire. In a time where people only look out for themselves, Kato's bravery and his obsession to help others appears otherworldly. Kato's willingness to look out for others despite his own fear, the inherent risks, and the mob mentality of selfishness is incredible, and it really appears to rub off on others, gathering these 3 people, who had no reason to risk their lives for this man, coming together to help a person in need. This definitely isn't the first time this has happened, but I think it's one of the most impactful. I think the fact it's for someone who's not even involved in the games is the most important part. But going all the way back to Chapter 1, Kato's bravery is the only reason they're in this mess. And I think that even though Kurono calls him an idiot, he too was moved by Kato's urge to do what's right. After rescuing the man by a distraction of Grand Theft Auto, Kurono takes matters into his own hands. Instead of playing with the group, Kurono plays for more selfish matters. He wants to make the hero play, win over the girl's admiration, and look like a total badass while doing it. This leads to a silent vendetta against Kato. Their motivations are complete opposites at this point of the manga. Kato is doing this for the sake of others, and prioritizing saving lives over gaining points so he can get everyone home safely, with the ultimate goal of being free. Kurono, on the other hand, has become obsessed with the feeling of the hunt, wanting to put on a show by trying to take down as many aliens as he can, solo. In a way, picking up the tendencies that Kishi had, becoming this more violent figure, and becoming obsessed with the power and thrill the game grants him. This dynamic they have going on is really interesting, both of them displaying bravery in their own ways. Kato's bravery is more representative in a societal and mental sense, choosing to put his life on the line for others, and in the process standing up against the societal norms of letting people deal with their own problems. Kato's also fighting a mental battle, deciding to do what's right no matter the situation, even though he knows it could possibly lead to his death, as I explained with the train accident. While Kurono's bravery is centered more on the physical acts, the way that Kurono takes down these aliens is insane. From racking up 38 points without the protection of his suit, blasting the bird-like alien while being carried high above the city to end the mission, or jumping into the head of an enormous statue and killing it from the inside out. Kurono is just a demon on the battlefield. I also think it's interesting how Kato looks up to Kurono for his bravery specifically, but in trying to be like him, he's adopted his own version, and now Kurono sees Kato as some sort of threat, despite him just wanting to be brave like Kurono. It makes for a really cool rivalry, and a dynamic that reaches its peak in this arc. Kato's influence on others is a pretty big theme of this arc, and throughout it, characters put themselves in harm's way to preserve the lives of others. While facing off against a large number of enemies, Hojo lets the others escape to find help as he holds off the statues, as well as giving Sadako the chance to run away, before ultimately giving both of their lives up to buy time for the others. Kishimoto, the love interest of Kato, sacrifices herself by jumping in the way of acid to save her lover, leaving Kato in a state of shock but unable to grieve given their circumstances, coming back to his senses for the well-being of others. Sei gives her life for her wounded Kurono, even though he previously dismissed her confession of love, saying that he was only interested in her out of lust. Although these acts of selflessness ultimately lead to nothing, as each one of them are picked off one by one. It's this idea of Kato as a leader. I think he just evokes this emotion in people, a realization of what they're fighting for, to find the bravery inside themselves and put their life on the line for others. As the final man standing, Kato faces off against the statue in an attempt to make it back to his younger brother alive. Unexpectedly, the statue takes out an invisible player beside it and consumes his brain, allowing this alien to communicate with Kato. It questions him, wondering why they had come here to kill them all. They had done nothing to them, and now he's left all alone. Although the alien raises these questions, he soon attacks Kato. With Y-gun in hand, Kato fires repeated shots at the statue as it begins to close the distance. The alien fires a laser in Kato's direction. He narrowly avoids a lethal shot, but the alien still manages to amputate his arm in the process. Giving his enemy false confidence, Kato bends over, appearing to be crippled from the pain, hiding the gun underneath him while locking onto the alien. Upon firing the Y-gun, he successfully tethers the creature to the ground. But the alien had one last trick up his sleeve, breaking out of his shell and assuming his natural form, a giant four-armed creature, taking the face of his dead teammate. Finally out of options, Kato pledges to kill it, not for his sake, but for the well-being of his little brother, thinking back to his fallen comrades and his little brother to gather the strength he needs to win, repeating to himself, "I can't lose, I can't lose, I must win," using this inner strength to chop off the creature's head and secure a way home, surrendering his ideals of peace and taking a life for the sake of getting back to his brother. But before the transport begins, tragedy ensues. The monster makes one final selfish act directed towards the exhausted Kato, plunging his tail into Kato's chest right before falling dead himself. It cuts back to his little brother, searching for Kato. The little brother storms out of the house, running to the new apartment in hopes of finding him there, but to no avail. Left crying in the rain, alone, Kato, bleeding out on the floor, spends his final moments thinking of his brother, begging God to allow him to grow up strong and happy without him. Reading this arc for the first time left me with such an empty feeling. You spent the last 60 chapters building up these characters, establishing his philosophy, and putting him in situations that question his integrity. After countless deaths, he's finally placed in a good leadership role and given time to shine. He brings all these people together in the hope of finally making some progress towards his freedom, but one after another they are just picked off. And the gore just hits so much more in this arc, because every time it happens, you just lose more hope for Kato and Kurono. After all the chaos, you come to Kato's final stand, sure that he has to be the one to make it out, just for him to die to some cheap shot at the very end. I was in disbelief for chapters. I thought there was no way they could kill the only morally good character in the series off like that. But that's why Gantz is so good. Kato's story doesn't have a happy ending. The world is cruel, and while Kato makes an effort to make it a better place, he fails. And this for me is why his character is so unique. In any other series, he'd be the only survivor. He'd have some plot armor to ensure that he makes it to the end. Instead, he's struck down with all the other narcissists and psychos. This world doesn't hold Kato to a higher standard. His actions not only get himself killed, but also cause the rest of the team to fall to the blades of their enemies as well, leaving possibly the most selfish, narcissistic character in this series as the lone survivor. Kato Masaru is a character with close ties to the overarching theme of human connections, a theme that is now passed on to our new lead, Kei Kurono. Kato's death works as a catalyst to some of the best character development I've seen in manga, turning the once directionless pessimist into someone capable of understanding the importance of human life and finding his purpose in the vast universe, creating a really beautiful tale under all the blood-soaked pages. If you haven't read Gantz, please do. If you have read it, let me know who your favorite character from the series is. There are a couple other characters from Gantz that I find really compelling and hope to cover in the future, so if you're interested, leave a like and subscribe. Thanks.